I want to make one thing very clear before we start. Tamarkan is absolutely very cool and strong and will be good in a number of matchups. It's just Creative Assembly did the typical thing of releasing him alongside two factions, getting specific tools designed to kill large monsters, namely that being more gunpowder units, Elspeth von Draken also very much with Lore of Death and other abilities, kind of snipe focused. Yeah, poor Tamarkan's going to have a bad time in these DLC-specific matchups, but we'll no doubt see him shine in other matchups today. Okoy is going to try his best here, see how long he can survive against Elspeth and my Empire army here. Let's take a look at the Empire side first. We're going to go ahead and pause just real quick. As that's the first time featuring good old Elspeth on the channel. She is looking ever fine on her Carmine Dragon here, with Lord of Death, of course, it being what it always has been, hasn't received any changes in this update. That means it's going to be really strong. She's also got this Dark Walker, which gives her physical resistance, and Strider synergizes very well with this ability, which removes magical damage and gives her 10% physical resistance base. So basically, that means you can get up to 50% ward save on local area effects, or at least units nearby. If you are getting shot by magic damage at long range, that's not going to apply, but still. Pale Scythe, of course, gives her extra spell mastery and spell resistance as she or enemies cast spells, which makes her great for just spamming Spirit Leech. Death's Timekeeper also heals her and deals direct damage to enemies, good versus single targets. Kind of a way to keep her alive without having to take a Lore of Life caster along with her. And then, of course, on the Carmine Dragon's got the Breath Attack. We've also got the Marienburg Landship. Well, just the Landship, no longer of Marienburg vintage, and the Regiment of Renown Grundle's Defenders here, these spears, who are going to give it some physical resistance with their Regiment of Renown ability here. Rear Guardian, yes, gives a ward save to War Machines and Artillery, which the Landship certainly is one. Comes in below the Steam Tank on price, does not cause terror, but as you can see here, has a massive HP pool, does have a long-range cannon at the front, and lots of men with repeaters all around the sides. I love the captain in particular. This is a great unit model that I'm sure modders will make great use of. And then, yeah, you've got the lads down here manning the cannons, and then all these guys all around with their repeaters, and it is quite a potent piece indeed. Unbreakable, as is the Steam Tank. Again, less expensive than the Steam Tank. Also has this ability here, which charges up the power for ramming. Yes, it basically means you can't turn. You're going in whatever direction you have chosen when the ability is selected, but you get a massive amount of mass acceleration, extra speed, and whatnot. For the rest of the build, we've got Free Company of Nuln here with their pistols, of course. A couple of Empire Knights. Couldn't quite afford Knights of the Black Rose, although we'll certainly look at them in other replays. We've also got some Spearmen with shields here, some Halberdiers in the back. Yeah, basically just some state troops to help pad things out. Sigmar's Sons, of course, to help face down the foes of Chaos. Speaking of which, got some Plague Ogres here. They're going to be quite decent. I mean, they're basically like Plagued Man-Eaters, filling a similar role to Minotaurs, honestly, to other Chaos factions. But they're a bit slower than Minotaurs. They do get Bile Trolls as well, which are, of course, Trolls. They're quite decent. Have a -6 melee defense aura, which is good, considering low attack-ish from Nurgle. These Rot Knights are already getting blasted by the Steam Tank. I'm going to Spirit Leech them and give them a quick 1-2 punch with the Empire Knight charge and Elspeth in just a moment. The main thing, Rot Knights, they're very good. They hit hard. Not the best attack and defense, but very good weapon strength with anti-large, great charge bonus, good speed, especially for Nurgle, very good speed. But only 80 armor and not the best leadership either. I think, what, like 70 base leadership? Yeah, 70 base leadership for the regular unit. They do have regeneration, which also makes them weak to fire damage, so they can be a little bit glass cannon in some situations, and me knowing that sort of beforehand on this specific battle, I'm going to, again, just try and shock them off very quickly. We've got some Furies and some Nurglings, along with the Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle, also a new addition, the Hero Level Caster, Mortal Hero Level Caster. Of course, you could always take a Plague Ridden, but this guy, unlike the Plague Ridden, can ride a horse, and that makes him much faster. I think he can also take the Rot Beast mount, which, again, we'll look at in another video, but let's get this one rolling. Enough talking about the new stuff. Yeah, we're gonna, again, 1-2 punch. The Breath Attack, you can see, is this crazy laser beam. It also has insane homing. You don't really see it too much on that one. It does pretty good damage also, just between the Spirit Leech, couple cannon shots, and the Breath Attack. It's almost half HP off the Rot Knights already, and they're 1800, so they're pretty expensive. I'm going to just kind of fall back. Love the livery as well on these Empire Knights for Wiesenland and Nuln. Color scheme looks spectacular with the red and black. A nice little noble hammer and anvil. As Elspeth charges in with the Empire Knights. Going to send those Rot Knights terrified away. Not immune to psychology, so they do get terrified and simply rout. And again, best way, in my experience, of dealing with them is just to shock them off as quickly as possible. You definitely do not want them hanging around and receiving any healing. To that effect, the Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle is trying to close, perhaps to do some healing on these Rot Knights, but they're so close to the edge of the map here that they are likely to just get chased straight off the side. And meanwhile, setting up the infantry lines to clash, trying to screen these Furies so Elspeth can get back up in the air. Toad Dragon's animations are amazing, even if it's a massive target that will probably struggle in matchups like Empire. And spoiler alert, Dwarfs. We are going to take a look at a Dwarf replay after this, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But activate the Landship, get into combat here. And yeah, just kind of have it forward a little bit. No, I guess I'll be moving it back. It was here to perhaps shoot Tamarkan a little bit, but I don't want Tamarkan really fighting in melee necessarily, so we're just kind of pulling back here, trying to get these Empire Knights back into position to assist. Right now, the Bile Trolls, excuse me, and yeah, the Plague Ogre is not really doing much besides just chewing on infantry, which is fine. You definitely need to kill some infantry, but it's a lot of anti-large, kind of chaff tier infantry. So, again, absolutely love the color scheme for Wiesenland. Looks spectacular. Toad Dragon charging in on the high ground up there. The overlapping levels of Free Company are definitely making him quite sad, even though he does have 100 armor up on the Toad Dragon. It's just such a large target that like 100% of those... Oh no, only 60 armor. For some reason I was thinking it was 100. Yeah, only 60 armor is really not a lot. So those non-AP missiles, Free Company, just a nice concave of missiles here. As he gets kind of caught up momentarily fighting some Empire Knights and some Spearmen. Tamarkan's going to suffer quite badly to the gunpowder of the Empire. There. Again, as to be expected somewhat, but Plague Ogre is definitely cutting through here, trying to do their best to respond. Elspeth hasn't really had to do a lot so far. She's mostly just been flying up in the air, being pretty, you know. Well, I say that. Is she even pretty? I mean, certainly has a type of beauty to her, but terrifyingly so. And not necessarily conventionally. I mean, her outfit it's certainly interesting, I have to say. I like the design quite a bit. It's not what I was expecting necessarily, but I say looking pretty, mostly because the dragon. I mean, look at the beautiful dragon. And the breath attack there just straight up finishes off Tamarkan. Yeah, the breath attack might be a little bit too strong. It does a lot of damage, and as I mentioned, does homing as well. It seems to do good damage against most targets. So this is one thing maybe to keep an eye out for. Again, anytime I make recommendations for balance changes in pre-release, people tend to throw a fit in the comments, which is fine. But again, these are just things that certainly Creative Assembly will take your feedback as well, but do experiment yourselves when you get your hands on the build, is what I'm saying, I guess. For those of you planning on buying the DLC as well. Landship's going to hang around, and I mean, it's pretty much a done deal at this point. We'll watch this new Nurgle bro charge in. Take out a few of these Empire Knights for good measure. Yeah, the blood spatter's a little bit interesting on them. Almost makes them a little bit rusty, perhaps? Interesting. Might be a little bit of a visual bug, perhaps. Not sure. But the Landship also is just so special. We'll talk again more about the Landship in another video. We're definitely going to be deep diving this guy. It's probably, you know, spoiler alert for that video, I guess, or for any video you watch with the Landship. Probably the best new unit for the Empire individually. It's a very good single entity, kind of just as a backbone. Will generate value kind of passively, almost like a Mortis engine, just continuously shooting everything around it. The main gun also does pretty good damage to low model count units. Just generally a great thing to have in your arsenal. Here, basically just pays for itself. 14,000 damage, 1,900 gold value, without me really doing anything, which is nice to see. I say nice to see. Some people perhaps will immediately cry OP in the comments, but that's, again, fine. That's what part of the fun of this is for. Really, the Free Company were a big carry for me, just gunning down Tamarkan. Only 60 armor again with that large target size means he gets hit by absolutely everything. Takes all the hits. But still will probably be good in a number of matchups. Even him on foot also, I say foot, he's basically a monstrous infantry lord, right? Because he is like the Plague Ogre lord. So he's similar to somebody like Throg, perhaps, would be maybe a comparison. Probably better than Throg. We'll look at, again, Tamarkan in some future videos, maybe on foot. But for this one, Okoye, gave it his best, certainly. I have to respect the commitment to taking the DLC stuff, even in the face of a faction which it won't do well. And just to make things nice and fair, why don't we see me try and do the same thing against the Dwarfs? If the guns of Nuln weren't threatening enough already to Tamarkan and his big toad dragon, the other side of this DLC is the Dwarfs, of course, who are another, AP missile faction, generally very strong at range. I don't know, not only that, but a focus of the DLC is their specific anti-large component, which would be Slayers, obviously. And let's quickly talk about Slayer Pirates, because these guys are by far probably the best unit for the Dwarfs. Again, early predictions are typically wrong, but their missile damage is absolutely nuts. They only cost 750 points. Yeah, it's basically half, a little bit more than half AP. Only a 5-second reload time. They've only got 6 ammunition, which is a very low amount, but their overall missile damage is insane, and then, of course, they're unbreakable Slayers in melee. Their stats aren't incredible. Actually, kind of poor for Slayers, somewhat, but 40 speed also makes them nice and mobile. Yeah, they're limited to 3 in the unit caps by default, which should tell you something about their power level here. We've also got the Demon Slayer, the new generic lord. Again, anti-large. No AP, as he's kind of the dual hand weapon, but plus 25 bonus versus large. A few other things about Slayers. All Slayers now have this Slayer tag, which means they cannot have their weapon strength reduced by any means. We'll see that here in a moment, I'm sure. Worthy Foe also means if there's a terror-causing unit in range, he gains a nice bit of weapon strength and melee attack. Wards of Grimnir here gives him some ward save as he makes kills. And yeah, Deathblow passive also gives a weapon strength buff, and then Glorious Death. This is an activatable AoE that basically makes all Slayers in range not able to die. Garagrim Iron Fist. This is Ungrim's son, I believe. He is a Slayer, but he's one of the anti-infantry type Slayers. Yeah, anti-infantry and large splash attacks. He's also got this AoE Vortex here, Hurricane of Death, which does a solid amount of damage for sure. And then also has this AoE magic damage and extra weapon strength, which is where these Slayer Pirates are getting that magic damage from. Of course, we've got regular Slayers here, and then the Doom Seekers. These are one of the other new units. Of course, like Garagrim, they're the anti-infantry variant of Slayers, just interested in getting the highest kill-death ratio possible, like the best COD players that they are. Yeah, they're also somewhat of a heroic unit, low model count, very high stats and splash damage, plus 15 bonus versus infantry, and of course, they're Slayers. They've also got sort of a lesser version of the Whirlwind of Death, what's called Whirlwind of Death, whatever the other one's called. And I do believe, yeah, they also have Vanguard deployment, which is interesting, certainly. There's the Regiment of Noun over on the far side. That gets an even more upgraded Whirlwind of Death, lasts a little bit longer. And they also get this ward save ability here. Yeah, the Wards of Grimnir also active on them as well. Oh no, I guess, no, they get it also. The regular Doom Seekers. Yeah, I guess they just get the upgraded Whirlwind and rank 9 stats, which is fantastic. And I guess that's it. Some regular Slayers mixed in here for myself. I mean, it's Tamarkan. We've got some of the Pestigors up front, you saw there at the beginning, some Plague Ogres, Demon Spew, Kha'Zix the Befouled, which, again, we'll probably talk more about on another day, because what we're really here to see is the Pestigors charge in, their ability procs, which, by the way, is bugged. You're going to see it slow everything here. And then, yeah, I charge on Tamarkan on in. He massively passed through the front line, just way overcharges, which is totally fine. And then he's going to get shredded by the Slayer pistols. I'll leave the health bars up for the time being while everything else charges in. You can see the Glorious Death. Very cool VFX on that, actually. You can see that the Slayer's just absolutely not giving hoot about anything. But, yeah, long drongs here. The Regiment of Noun also, they get some Yeah, minus 10 melee attack aura, which definitely helps considering they're squishy slayers. But yeah, there's no hope. Tamarkan does get his ability here, which is going to prevent him from dying, which I think went off in both. Basically, you can see here his HP is very low, and if I can find the correct one, yes. Feast of the Maggot Lord, basically it means that he cannot die during this, and he'll get healed. It also does massive damage to an enemy single entity within range. Like if we take a look here, I believe it is active on the Slayer Lord, perhaps. It's gone off yet. No, not quite. So we'll keep the Slayer Lord's portrait up for the time being. Yeah, there it is. Feast of the Maggot Lord. So you can see it's doing massive damage to the Demon Slayer. He's definitely going to meet his doom gloriously. Perhaps not. No, actually. Doesn't quite kill him. Does massive HP damage to him, certainly, but doesn't last long enough to actually kill him. Tamarkan goes down very quickly to all the Slayers and everything else, and that's pretty much going to be the end of my build. So, yeah, again, don't take this as an indication of Tamarkan's overall power level. It's just he got matched up against factions which are kind of designed to murder him. And specifically, those factions are getting tools designed to murder him. So, sad day for Tamarkan. We'll definitely showcase him in some other matchups and some other battles in the future. Stay tuned. Also be showcasing the Dwarfs and the Empire, especially, of course, me being an Empire main, in coming videos as well, so be sure to stay tuned for all the fun you could ever have. Hopefully you enjoyed this double cast. Again, is taking Tamarkan advisable against these two factions? Absolutely not. Maybe on foot, even then, could potentially be quite risky, but there you go. It's also a good indicator of the power level of some of these units for the Dwarfs and the Empire. Well, maybe not a great indicator of the power level. I mean, Tamarkan did get killed by Free Company, but it's something. It is definitely something. You can see the Brotherhood of Grimney here with their glowing tattoos. Vile Trolls trying to rally to the Sorcerer, who is on the War Shrine. Can take the War Shrine out, which is going to provide a decent amount of passive AoE healing, but certainly not enough to sustain through the beastly DPS of Slayers. Look at these. Brotherhood of Grimnir didn't even take a single loss. Just absolutely spectacular. Dragonback Slayers, of course, are what they always have been. Except that now they just cannot have their weapon strength reduced. Yeah, you see how they're poisoned, but their weapon strength is still even buffed slightly because of the War Mourner passive there. It's interesting. It doesn't mean that Slayers, again, talking about things designed to kill Nurgle, Slayers are the ones, right? Because that poison contact effect does very little against them. So very cool stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that first look at Tamarkan and the way that he dies against these two factions. And definitely interesting. I'm curious to see kind of how he plays out in some other matchups as well. And we'll definitely be looking into those in the future, but as for today, yeah, pretty much nothing on my army pays for itself, which is not terribly surprising. On the other side, Samurai Warrior, the Slayer Pirates are really the MVPs here, but in general, regular Slayers, Dragonback Slayers also get some massive damage value, just cutting up those large units. So, to be expected, but there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.